ไกลกันจ้ะเดี๋ยวจะไปขายเดินได้
Hotel receipt for 340 euros, says the DKK. Most intelligence agencies witnessed it. One expense among thousands, already erased, seemingly forgotten. There was not evidence that understood situation. Ghosts of trust. Mahmoud al-Hayek survived a car bomb underground facial reconstruction of Tehran. Disappeared 2000 The operation was codenamed Invisible Hand. Mahmoud al-Hayek was born in Gaza City in 1965. During a period when Palestinian resistance movements were fragmenting and reorganizing, his childhood coincided with the formation of what would become Hamas's military infrastructure. By age 19, al-Hayek had demonstrated an unusual aptitude for operational security and compartmentalized thinking. Associates who trained with him in the late 1980s described him as methodical, never impulsive, capable of maintaining false personas for months without psychological fracture. One instructor from that era later told Shin Bet interrogators that al-Hayek could recite cover stories backward while under stress testing, never breaking character even when sleep deprived. This capability made him valuable in ways that transcended tactical planning. By his mid-30s, al-Hayek had risen to command Hamas's external operations network in Europe. His specialty was patience. While other commanders favored spectacular attacks that drew immediate attention, al-Hayek built infrastructure, safe houses, document forgeries, financial channels that could remain dormant for years. Intelligence analysts tracking him noted a pattern. He never appeared at the center of operations. He positioned himself 3 steps removed, communicating through cutouts, never using the same route twice. Between 2000 and 2003, Israeli intelligence attributed 7 major attacks to networks al-Hayek had established. Yet they possessed no recent photographs of him and only fragmentary communication intercepts. He had become what intelligence services call a systemic threat, someone whose removal would collapse multiple operational networks simultaneously. The turning point came in May 2003. Israeli forces attempted to eliminate al-Hayek using a car bomb in Gaza City. The device detonated as planned, destroying the vehicle and killing 2 bodyguards. Al-Hayek survived, but suffered catastrophic facial injuries. Surveillance reports from that period describe a man with burns covering 60% of his face, his features rendered unrecognizable. Within weeks, he disappeared from all known Hamas facilities. Israeli intelligence assumed he had died from his injuries or gone to ground somewhere in the Palestinian territories. They were wrong on both counts. Intercepted communications from Iranian diplomatic channels in July 2003 mentioned a high-value patient receiving specialized medical treatment in Tehran. The references were oblique. No names, only treatment codes and facility designations. Mossad's Medical Intelligence Unit flagged these intercepts as potentially relevant. They tracked the patient's movement to a private clinic outside Tehran that specialized in reconstructive surgery, the kind performed on victims of chemical burns and severe trauma. The clinic had connections to Iranian Revolutionary Guard medical facilities. Over the following months, additional intercepts suggested the patient had undergone multiple surgeries, a complete facial reconstruction that altered bone structure, skin grafting that changed pigmentation patterns, even dental work that would render bite analysis useless. By late 2003, whoever entered that clinic had emerged as a physically different person. Mossad's counterterrorism division assessed that al-Hayek had survived and transformed. But transformation created an intelligence paradox. All existing biometric data was now worthless. Facial recognition databases held images of a man who no longer existed. Gait analysis from old surveillance footage might still be relevant, assuming his injuries hadn't altered his walking pattern. Voice prints remained viable if they could obtain new recordings. But the fundamental problem was identification. They needed to find him before they could track him. And finding someone who had erased their physical identity required finding patterns in behavior, not appearance. Intelligence services had tracked al-Hayek's network for 18 months by early 2005. European security services maintained watch lists at major border crossings. Financial intelligence units monitored accounts linked to Hamas funding channels. Signals intelligence swept communications traffic for linguistic patterns associated with his previous operational style. None of these methods produced actionable intelligence. Al-Hayek had effectively vanished. Mossad's assessment concluded that he was operating somewhere in Europe, likely using a completely fabricated identity with legitimate documentation, probably maintaining minimal contact with known Hamas operatives. The authorization to continue active pursuit came in October 2004. But without a starting point, surveillance remained theoretical. The breakthrough came from a seemingly unrelated investigation. Shin Bet had arrested the Hamas logistics coordinator in Ramallah in September 2004. During the search of his residence, agents seized a laptop containing financial records for European operations. The coordinator had attempted to wipe the hard drive before capture, but Israeli technical specialists recovered fragments of deleted files. Most of the recovered data consisted of routine financial transactions, payments to safe house operators, travel reimbursements, equipment purchases. Analysts spent weeks cataloging these entries, building network maps of Hamas's European infrastructure. One entry stood out for its mundanity. A hotel receipt from Hotel Metropole in Brussels, dated September 12, 2004. The amount was €340 for a 3-night stay. The name on the receipt was listed as Michel Dubois, profession listed as art dealer, Belgian national. The receipt itself would have meant nothing except for one detail. The Hamas coordinator had encrypted this specific file separately from other financial records. Everything else was stored in standard protected folders. This single receipt warranted its own encryption layer. That anomaly triggered an analyst's attention. Mossad called this approach signal extraction doctrine. The logic was straightforward. High-value targets operating under deep cover will eventually generate signals that deviate from their established patterns. The deviation might be tiny. Unusual encryption in a mundane receipt, payments slightly outside normal ranges, a communication that breaks operational rhythm. These signals are invisible unless you know what baseline to compare them against. Al-Hayek's network had been mapped for years. Analysts knew what normal looked like. This encrypted hotel receipt wasn't normal. The obstacles were formidable. First, the receipt was 6 weeks old by the time analysts identified it. Michel Dubois had checked out of Hotel Metropole in mid-September. If he was still in Brussels, he could be anywhere in a city of over 1 million people. Second, the name might be completely fabricated. Belgian identity documents were relatively easy to forge in 2004, and Hamas had multiple document specialists operating in Europe. Third, even if they located Dubois, there was no guarantee he was Al-Hayek. The receipt might belong to a completely different operative, or even a legitimate Hamas associate traveling for unrelated purposes. The investigation required resources without certainty of outcome. Despite these challenges, planners identified an opportunity. If Dubois was Al-Hayek, his behavior would eventually reveal patterns consistent with high-level command operations. Command-level operatives maintain certain habits. They need secure communication access. They avoid areas with heavy police presence. They stay mobile, but not too mobile. The Zion Unit, Mossad's specialized surveillance division, deployed a preliminary assessment team to Brussels. Their mission was narrow: determine whether Michel Dubois existed and whether his patterns suggested he was worth continued surveillance. Within 3 days, they would have their answer. But first, they needed to access Hotel Metropole's internal records without alerting Belgian intelligence services to Mossad's presence. During the Brussels surveillance phase, the team's lead operative experienced what intelligence handlers classified as operational fatigue. For 16 consecutive days, he maintained cover as a Belgian insurance investigator, spending daylight hours cross-referencing hotel records and nighttime hours filing encrypted reports to Tel Aviv. The psychological toll of sustained cover work manifests gradually. He later described it in debriefing as feeling his fabricated identity become more coherent than his actual memories. On day 12, he caught himself instinctively responding to his cover name when addressed in Hebrew during a secure communication check. The station chief noted this in assessment logs and rotated him to secondary duties after the Brussels phase concluded. But the mission parameters didn't change. Intercepted phone records from Al-Hayek's pre-2003 period reveal a man who called his mother in Gaza every Friday evening. Analysts reviewing these transcripts noted nothing operationally relevant. Discussions of family health, reminiscences about childhood, mundane expressions of affection. One conversation from April 2003, weeks before the assassination attempt, included Al-Hayek describing a dream where he was walking through an olive grove near his childhood home. He told his mother he could smell the trees. When the car bomb detonated in May, surveillance teams reported his mother collapsing in the street on hearing the news. She believed her son was dead. Hamas never corrected this belief, understanding that maternal grief would reinforce the perception that Al-Hayek had been successfully eliminated. By November 8, 2004, the operation entered its active surveillance phase. Hotel Metropole's security office had been penetrated through a maintenance contractor with financial difficulties. The contractor provided internal access codes to the digital surveillance system in exchange for €8,000 and a guarantee of anonymity. Mossad operatives retrieved security footage from September covering the 3-day period matching the receipt dates. The window was narrow. 72 hours of lobby footage, elevator cameras, and parking area surveillance. The Hotel Metropole's security architecture in 2004 relied on digital video recorders that overwrote footage after 30 days. Mossad's access came 47 days after Michel Dubois' checkout date. meaning the original footage had been overwritten. However, the system maintained backup archives for accounting disputes, stored on secondary servers that retained data for 90 days. These backups were lower resolution and captured only lobby and main entrance activity, not interior corridors or elevator footage. The technical team extracted approximately 18 hours of relevant footage showing individuals matching Dubois' check-in timestamp. 3 men checked in alone during the 72-hour window matching the receipt. Analysts cross-referenced each against Belgian national identity databases. 2 showed complete background histories, employment records, tax filings, previous hotel stays logged in commercial databases. The third, Michel Dubois, listed occupation as independent art dealer, had a Belgian national ID number that checked as valid in government databases, but showed no commercial transaction history before 2004. His identity had materialized fully formed 6 months earlier. This was the hallmark of a professionally constructed legend. The footage showed Dubois as a man in his early 40s, average height, deliberate movements, carrying a single leather briefcase and 1 rolling suitcase. His face showed no obvious scarring, suggesting successful reconstructive surgery. The facial analysis proved inconclusive. Without baseline biometric data of post-surgery Al-Hayek, comparison was impossible. What proved more valuable was behavioral analysis. Dubois never made eye contact with hotel staff for more than 2 seconds. He positioned himself in the lobby with his back to walls, maintaining sight lines to entrances. When using the elevator, he waited for others to enter first, always taking the position nearest the control panel. These were trained behaviors, the kind developed through years of operational exposure. The Zayin unit deployed 6 operatives to Brussels for the next phase. Their mission parameters were specific. Locate any trace of Michel Dubois' continued presence in Belgium and establish whether his movement pattern suggested long-term residence or transient operations. The team divided Brussels into sectors based on hotel proximity, financial districts where an art dealer might conduct business, and residential areas suitable for safe house operations. Standard surveillance protocols applied. No operative spent more than 48 hours in the same sector. All communication occurred through encrypted burst transmissions. Facial recognition countermeasures included theatrical-grade prosthetics for 3 team members. The investigation hit its first significant obstacle on November 15th, when financial database searches revealed Michel Dubois had used credit cards issued by 3 different Belgian banks in October 2004. This was unusual. Most legends rely on a single financial identity to maintain consistency. Multiple credit lines suggested either sophisticated preparation or an active attempt to create confusing data trails. The Zayin team requested additional technical support from Tel Aviv. Financial intelligence specialists began tracing each credit card's transaction history, building maps of where Dubois had been and what he had purchased. Over the next 11 days, a pattern emerged. Dubois had used his credit cards in Brussels, Paris, Madrid, and Amsterdam. The transactions were mundane: hotel stays, restaurant meals, taxi services, art supply purchases that supported his cover profession. But the frequency was revealing. He moved between cities every 7 to 10 days, never establishing permanent residence, always staying in mid-range hotels that catered to business travelers. This was the movement pattern of a command operative, maintaining operational mobility while servicing multiple networks. The team's assessment concluded that Dubois was almost certainly a high-value target, and the investment of additional resources was justified. By November 28th, Mossad had identified Dubois' current location through credit card activity. He had checked into Hotel Saint-Germain in Paris on November 25th. The transaction showed a 5-night reservation extending through November 30th. The window was narrow, but workable. Zion deployed 4 operatives to Paris, with instructions to establish visual confirmation and, if possible, obtain voice samples for analysis against Al-Hayat's pre-2003 recording. The team arrived in Paris within 12 hours. What they didn't know was that Dubois had already noticed irregularities in his environment, small tells that suggested potential surveillance. His training had prepared him to recognize these patterns. The Paris surveillance phase began with technical reconnaissance. Operatives needed access to Hotel Saint-Germain's internal systems without alerting French intelligence services, who maintained their own surveillance networks throughout Paris, focused on North African and Middle Eastern visitors. Mossad's relationship with French intelligence was cooperative, but compartmentalized. Sharing operational details about an active hunt could trigger French intervention that might compromise the mission. The decision was made to operate independently, accepting the risk of French detection if it meant maintaining operational control. Hotel Saint-Germain's security was less sophisticated than Hotel Metropole's. The building used analog cameras in public spaces with no digital backup system. Footage was recorded on VHS tapes that were reused weekly. This presented both advantages and limitations. Real-time surveillance was impossible without physical access to the security office. But the analog system was easier to penetrate without leaving digital forensic traces. An operative posing as a telecommunications maintenance worker gained access to the building's telephone junction box in the basement. From there, she installed a signal intercept device that would capture all outgoing and incoming calls from room 412, Dubois' registered room. On November 29th, at 14:20 hours, Dubois made a phone call from his hotel room. The intercept device captured both sides of the conversation. He spoke in Arabic, using a dialect consistent with Gaza origin, discussing logistics for a meeting in Madrid. The conversation lasted 90 seconds. Voice analysis specialists in Tel Aviv compared the recording against Al-Hayat's pre-2003 voice samples. The analysis returned a confidence match of 78%. This was not definitive. Voice patterns change with age and surgical trauma. But it was strong enough to elevate Dubois to confirmed high-priority target status. The authorization to proceed with more aggressive surveillance came through encrypted channels within 6 hours. What Dubois didn't know was that Mossad had already mapped his entire Paris network through the credit card trace. Every restaurant he visited, every taxi he took, every art gallery he entered had been cross-referenced against known Hamas associates and safe house locations. 2 addresses appeared suspicious. One was an apartment in the 11th arrondissement, registered to a Moroccan import-export company with no visible business operations. The second was a warehouse in Saint-Denis listed as an art storage facility. Surveillance teams established observation posts near both locations. They needed to determine which, if either, served as Dubois' operational base. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. On November 30th, a hotel security guard at Hotel Saint-Germain reported something unusual to management. The guest in room 412 walked with an almost imperceptible asymmetry, favoring his left side by perhaps 2 degrees. The guard had noticed because his father had suffered a similar gait pattern after a motorcycle accident. The guard's observation was logged in the hotel's incident report system as a note about a potentially injured guest. A Mossad operative monitoring hotel communications through the intercept system flagged this report immediately. Gait asymmetry, consistent with healed traumatic injury, matched the profile of someone who had survived a car bombing 18 months earlier. Tel Aviv ordered immediate gait analysis. Surveillance teams captured video footage of Dubois walking on Paris streets between December 1st and December 3rd. The footage was transmitted to Mossad's biometric analysis unit, which used specialized software to measure stride length, hip rotation, weight distribution, and dozens of other micromeasurements. The analysis compared these measurements against pre-2003 surveillance footage of Al-Hayek. Despite the time gap and potential injury-related changes, the analysis returned a match probability of 86%. Combined with the voice analysis and behavioral patterns, the cumulative probability that Michel Dubois was Mahmoud Al-Hayek exceeded 92%. This met Mossad's threshold for kinetic action authorization. The operation now entered its terminal. Mossad's document an assassination in European capitals required specific conditions. Minimal collateral damage risk. Central District. French counterterrorism units conducted regular sweeps of areas with high immigrant populations, and the political consequences of an operation going wrong were severe. Israel's relationship with France required maintaining plausible deniability, even if French intelligence suspected the truth. By December 8th, Mossad had confirmed that Dubois used the 11th arrondissement as his primary residence in Paris. Surveillance established that he entered the building at approximately 2200 hours most evenings and departed between 0800 and 0900 hours the following morning. The building had 6 residential units, modest security, and one entrance facing a street with limited pedestrian traffic after dark. The warehouse in Saint-Denis appeared to be legitimate art storage, with no connection to Hamas operations. This simplified targeting parameters. The apartment was the primary operational location. The execution team consisted of 5 operatives, all veterans of previous European operations. Their equipment included suppressed firearms, electronic door defeat systems, French police identification that could pass cursory inspection, and 2 vehicles with altered registration plates. The plan followed a methodology Mossad called controlled chaos. The assassination would be staged to resemble a home invasion robbery gone violent, with sufficient physical evidence left behind to support this narrative. The actual cause of death would be designed to prevent detailed forensic analysis that might reveal professional execution techniques. December 18th was selected as the execution date, based on intelligence indicating Dubois planned to travel to Amsterdam on December 20th. If the operation failed or was aborted, the next window might not open for weeks. Weather forecasts predicted rain for the evening of the 18th, which would reduce street visibility and provide operational concealment. French police patrol schedules showed reduced presence in the 11th arrondissement between 2300 and 0100 hours on weeknights. The window was narrow, approximately 90 minutes to complete the operation and extract before police response could effectively mobilize. On December 18th at 21:30 hours, surveillance confirmed Dubois entering his apartment building. Lights in his 3rd floor unit activated at 21:45 hours. The execution team positioned themselves in the surrounding area. 2 operatives remained with vehicles parked on adjacent streets. 3 operatives approached the building entrance. They wore plain clothes consistent with off-duty police officers, carried identification that matched this cover, and moved with the casual authority of law enforcement conducting routine business. The building's entrance lock was defeated using an electronic decoder at 22:48 hours. The team entered the lobby and proceeded to the 3rd floor via the building's single stairwell. Standard protocol called for elevator avoidance. Stairwells provide more extraction options and reduce witness exposure. The 3rd floor corridor contained 4 apartment doors. Dubois' unit was the 2nd door on the left. The team stacked outside the door in tactical formation. The lead operative knocked and identified himself in French as police investigating a noise complaint. This was a standard pretext that typically prompted residents to open their doors without suspicion. Dubois opened the door 12 seconds after the knock. The operative saw immediate recognition in his eyes, the kind of micro-expression that indicates someone understands they are facing a threat. But the recognition came too late. The team moved through the doorway in rapid succession, weapons raised, commands shouted in French. Dubois attempted to retreat deeper into the apartment. He managed 3 steps before the lead operative closed distance and used a compliance roll to force him to the ground. Total time from door opening to full entry, 8 seconds. The apartment interior was sparse. Minimal furniture, no personal photographs. A laptop computer on a small desk, clothes organized in a single closet. This was the living space of someone who maintained mobility as primary security protocol. The team searched rapidly while 2 operatives secured Dubois. The laptop was powered down and placed in a signal blocking bag for later analysis. Documents found in the apartment included Belgian identity papers for Michel Dubois, credit cards, and a French residence permit. No weapons were present. No Hamas-related materials were visible. The apartment could have belonged to any transient professional maintaining temporary residence. The execution occurred at 2312 hours. The operative positioned behind Dubois used a method designed to induce cardiac arrest through precise application of pressure to the carotid arteries. This technique, when performed correctly, causes rapid unconsciousness followed by death within 3 to 4 minutes. External trauma is minimal, making it appear as if the victim died from natural causes or stress-induced cardiac failure. Dubois lost consciousness within 20 seconds. His breathing became irregular, then stopped. Pulse cessation was confirmed at 2316 hours. Elapsed time from door entry to death, 24 minutes. The staging phase began immediately. The team arranged the apartment to suggest robbery. Drawers were opened and contents scattered. The television was disconnected and placed near the door, as if thieves had been interrupted. Dubois' wallet was removed and its contents taken except for identification. This created the appearance of thieves taking cash, but abandoning identifying documents. The laptop remained in the signal blocking bag and would leave with the team. Its contents potentially contained intelligence value, despite the risks of removing evidence. The final touch was opening the apartment's single window, suggesting the thieves had considered that as a potential escape route before choosing the front door. The team exited the apartment at 2328 hours. They proceeded down the stairwell to the ground floor. One operative remained in the building lobby for 40 seconds after the others departed, establishing a visual sweep that confirmed no witnesses in adjacent units had emerged. The street outside showed normal nighttime activity. A few pedestrians, parked cars, distant traffic noise. The operatives walked to their extraction vehicles separately, following routes that diverged by 1 block each. By 2335 hours, both vehicles were in motion, driving toward different exfiltration routes out of Paris. Total time in target area, 47 minutes. Within 2 hours, all 5 operatives had crossed into Belgium through separate border points. French border security in 2004 maintained minimal controls for travelers moving between EU member states, and the crossings occurred without incident. The vehicles were abandoned in Brussels at pre-arranged locations. The operatives separated into individual elements and proceeded to extraction points using public transportation. By 0600 hours on December 19th, 3 operatives had departed Europe through Amsterdam's airport. The remaining 2 left via separate routes through Germany. Standard protocol called for complete team dispersal within 48 hours of operation completion. This timeline was achieved 36 hours early. The laptop seized from Dubois' apartment was transported to Tel Aviv through diplomatic channels. Technical analysis revealed encrypted files containing communication logs with Hamas operatives in Lebanon, financial records for European network operations, and identity documentation for 3 additional false personas Dubois maintained. The most valuable intelligence was a schedule showing planned meetings in Madrid and Berlin over the following 3 months. This intelligence enabled European security services to disrupt multiple Hamas operations without revealing the source. Mossad shared sanitized versions of this intelligence with French and German counterparts through established liaison channels, maintaining the fiction that the intelligence came from signals intercepts rather than physical seizure. By 0900 hours on December 19th, French police responding to a wellness check discovered Dubois' body. The initial police assessment concluded the scene suggested interrupted robbery. Physical evidence supported this interpretation. Scattered belongings, missing cash, signs of forced entry that the operatives had carefully staged. The body showed no obvious external trauma. Initial medical examination attributed death to cardiac arrest, possibly induced by stress during the robbery attempt. No evidence at the scene suggested professional execution. French counterterrorism units became involved 72 hours after the body's discovery, when routine identity verification revealed inconsistencies in Michel Dubois' background. The Belgian national identity number was valid. A deeper investigation showed the identity had been created only 8 months earlier, with no verifiable history before that point. This triggered protocols for investigating potential terrorist-related deaths. French intelligence services began extensive forensic analysis of the apartment, financial records, and any surveillance footage from surrounding areas. Every investigative lead ended in carefully constructed dead ends. The vehicles used by the extraction team had been purchased through intermediaries with false identities. Surveillance footage from streets near the apartment showed individuals matching general descriptions of the team members. But facial recognition analysis produced no matches in French or EU criminal databases. The electronic door defeat system left no tool marks that could identify the specific device used. Even the method of death, while suspicious in its lack of defensive wounds or signs of struggle, could not be conclusively attributed to professional execution versus stress-induced cardiac failure during a violent robbery. Hamas issued no public statements about the death. This was standard protocol when high-value operatives were eliminated. Acknowledging the loss would confirm the operative's importance and provide intelligence to adversaries about network structure. Internal Hamas communications intercepted by signals intelligence showed confusion about what had occurred. Some Hamas leadership suspected Israeli involvement but lacked evidence. Others believed Dubois had been compromised by European security services. The uncertainty served Mossad's strategic interests by creating internal suspicion within Hamas networks about operational security failures. Israel maintained complete operational silence. No government official acknowledged the operation's existence. When French intelligence services made discreet inquiries through liaison channels about potential Israeli involvement, they received standard denials that were transparent to professional intelligence officers, but maintained diplomatic plausibility. The denials were transparent to those in the field. Everyone understood what had occurred. But transparency wasn't the point. The point was maintaining the legal and political fiction that allowed cooperative intelligence relationships to continue. The tactical achievement was elimination of a high-value target who had orchestrated multiple attacks and maintained extensive operational networks across Europe. Strategic intelligence gained from the seized laptop enabled disruption of planned Hamas operations in 3 countries over the following year. This produced secondary benefits, including identification of document forgers, financial facilitators, and safe house networks that had previously operated undetected. The operation's cost-benefit analysis from Mossad's perspective was overwhelmingly positive. The diplomatic cost was minimal, but not zero. French intelligence services understood that Israel had conducted an assassination on French territory without authorization. This violated operational protocols that typically required host nation notification for kinetic operations. Relations between Mossad and French intelligence remained functional, but showed increased bureaucratic friction for approximately 18 months following the operation. German intelligence services, who learned of the operation through French liaison channels, implemented more restrictive protocols for Israeli intelligence activity in Germany. These restrictions required additional diplomatic effort to normalize over the following 2 years. The operational cost involved exposure of tradecraft elements. French forensic analysis, while unable to attribute the operation definitively to Israel, documented techniques used in the apartment staging and execution method. These findings were shared through Western intelligence liaison networks, making similar methodologies less effective for future operations. Mossad's Technical Services Division spent considerable resources developing alternative approaches that would not match the documented patterns. This represented a significant investment in maintaining operational capability after technique exposure. For the operatives involved, consequences were carefully managed. All 5 were reassigned to different operational theaters immediately following extraction. 2 requested voluntary rotation to administrative duties, citing psychological fatigue from sustained deep cover operations. These requests were granted without prejudice. Intelligence services recognize that sustained operational stress produces diminishing returns and increased error risk. The remaining 3 continued field operations, but with mandatory psychological assessments every 6 months for 2 years following the operation. One operative eventually left active service in 2007, describing in exit interviews the cumulative toll of multiple operations where violence was employed against targets who believed themselves to be safe. Mossad's assessment concluded that benefits outweighed costs by significant margins. Al-Hayek's elimination disrupted Hamas operations across Europe for approximately 3 years, while networks reorganized under new leadership. Intelligence gained from the seized laptop provided insights into Hamas command structure that informed multiple subsequent operations. The operation demonstrated Israel's capability to reach targets regardless of identity transformation or geographic distance. This demonstration had deterrent effects on other high-value targets, several of whom reduced their mobility and operational exposure following Al-Hayek's death. Whether this proved correct became clearer over the following 5 years. Hamas adapted by implementing stricter compartmentalization protocols, making individual operatives less critical to network functionality. European operations became more decentralized, with local cells operating more autonomously and command elements maintaining even deeper cover. This adaptation reduced the strategic impact of individual target elimination, but increased operational security challenges for Hamas by limiting command control. The intelligence community's assessment was that the operation achieved its immediate objectives, but also triggered adversary adaptation that complicated future operations. The moral paradox remains unresolved. Was Mahmoud al-Hayek a legitimate military target, despite having assumed a completely fabricated civilian identity and conducting no direct attacks since its facial reconstruction? Perspective 1 argues that his command role in establishing networks responsible for killing civilians justified elimination regardless of his current activities. His operational networks continued functioning, making him responsible for their actions even while maintaining personal distance from direct violence. From this view, the operation represented legitimate counterterrorism action against an active combatant who had temporarily reduced his profile while maintaining command authority. Perspective 2 argues that al-Hayek had effectively withdrawn from active operations by assuming a civilian identity and conducting no verifiable violent activities for over 18 months before his death. His presence in Paris as an art dealer, regardless of the identity's fraudulent nature, represented a form of de facto retirement from military operations. Executing someone who had abandoned operational activity crosses the line from counterterrorism into preemptive assassination based on past actions rather than present threat. From this view, the operation represented extrajudicial execution that violated fundamental principles about distinguishing between active combatants and individuals who have ceased hostilities. The answer reveals more about your worldview than about al-Hayek. If you believe that command, you would now doubt responsibility for past atrocities extends indefinitely, regardless of current activity. The operation was justified. If you believe that targeting should be based on present threat rather than historical actions, the operation violated ethical boundaries that distinguish law enforcement from revenge killing. Both positions contain internal logical consistency. Both can be defended with reference to specific facts about al-Hayek's history and the intelligence landscape of 2004. What's your take on whether someone's transformation of identity constitutes withdrawal from conflict, or whether command responsibility for past operations justifies elimination regardless of present activity? Does the sophistication of the identity transformation, the extent to which someone has erased their previous existence, create any moral consideration about whether they remain legitimate targets? Drop your perspective in the comments. If this story made you reconsider the boundaries between military, operation, and assassination, or made you question how intelligent Cairo, June 1995. The
Now I want to switch gears to the mayoral. Mayoral race in Los Angeles. You guys know I know Spencer Pratt a little bit. We've met before. We're friends on social media. I am wishing him well in this election. I think California needs new leadership across the board. And people keep attacking Spencer Pratt, saying he shouldn't be mayor because he doesn't have political experience. He was on a reality show. He's just a reality star. He was a villain. You guys, okay? I don't want someone who has decades and decades of in-office experience and has run a city or a state into the ground. I don't think there's a real correlation between someone who's been in office a long time and success, because the people who've been there, the status quo, it's not working. Karen Bass in Los Angeles, the fire hydrants didn't have water. They did not have water. She was off in Africa and Ghana on some eat, pray, love walkabout journey as her city was burning to the ground. So don't tell me, oh, Karen Bass has all this experience. She's held the job. You need to vote for her. I think it's time to try something new. Now, vote for who you want if you're living in Los Angeles, but I think if you're doing the status quo and everybody's homes are burning to the ground, okay, and there are homeless people running amok and dying every day in the street and animals being abused, why not give Spencer Pratt a chance? And if he doesn't succeed, if he doesn't do great, call him out on it. But give Spencer Pratt a chance, because he's managed to stay alive in the industry and the business for decades. And when I met Spencer in California, it was right after his home had burned down. This man had drive. He wasn't letting it tamper his spirit. He understand he was the father and the patriarch of his family. He was there with his wife Heidi, who's beautiful. And so
fun. The little petkins, it actually comes off the wall. Let's get that one.
Kapan itu pasirnya itu?
Oh my god.
Setengah jam.
Ya.
Yes, look at that. That's so cute. I kind of liked it crooked. It kind of gives it like a wild, like, it's kind of like a fun house feel, I guess. Like that. And then the kitchen. Kitchen's upstairs. Yeah, I can definitely see a bunch of dirt. I can see a ton of dirt. And the counters. I hope that my shoppies will fit on here. And the stairs. Right downstairs. Now this cleaned up really easy. This is not that dirty at all. Oh, there's a picture down there. So cute. This looks good. I'm gonna clean the bottom of it too, since it was just sitting out there. I think it's gonna be sitting on a shelf, so I'm just gonna tip the house up. Hopefully there'll be a date on here somewhere. Is there a date? There's no date? I'm surprised. Yeah, I'd like to know this date. Oh, actually, this is not even the Happy Places Happy House. This is actually the Shopkins Happy Places Grand Mansion playset. It was released in September of 2017. Very nice. This thing is 9 years old. So that's when it came out. 2017. Grand Mansion, which I do have the Happy Places Club. So we'll also clean that one off too and just check in on it and just make sure it's okay. All right, now that we've got that, let's put in the pieces. So like, bathtub, I love it. Isn't that so cute that every single furniture piece has a little Petkin's face on it? I remember somebody, like another collector saying, oh, I like that there's like a little face on everything. I think it's creepy. Not me. I think that's cute. I think it's absolutely adorable. Or else it's just a regular piece of furniture, but you put a cute little Petkin's face on it, and it's a Shopkins. It's a Happy Places Shopkins. All right, now we gotta find the bathroom to put this tub in. So we got it right here. Put the tub in. Oh, that's kind of an issue because if you put it in that way, you can't see the little Petkin's face. But if I put it this way, then it has this opening here. Maybe it goes that way anyways because maybe you can store Petkins right there. So maybe I'll just do it like that. All right, and then over here, this kind of looks like the bedroom to me, but it would be off the bathroom. So let's clean the bed now. So we can go right down. Lots of cute detail on this bed. I love the little fringe details on there. It even kind of hangs off the bed too. They had some really nice detail. And then this was a canopy bed because it came with this piece. That's really cute. That's really cute for the shoppies to sleep in. I like it in here. I like this being the bedroom. I like that being the bedroom. Oh, is this the one? Which one's the one that has the hanging seat? clean this one. This still looks really good after all this time. Barely any scratches on it. It's nice and shiny and glossy still. The seat is probably always warm whenever the shoppies sit in it because the little Pekins bear keeps it nice and warm. All right, let's turn it around again. Where's the hole? Yeah, it's in here. There we go. Now we can hang it. Okay, don't do that. We're not gonna do that. That's how you can get it to scrape. We want it to scrape. All right. That's good. Now I just have to clean off this piece. All right. This is ready for display. I think this looks really good. All right, before I go and display this on a shelf, we're gonna go clean the other pieces. So this one is the Happy Places Happy Home. And there's a name right here in the corner, Sparkle Hill Happy Home. I think they came out with two versions of this. There was the regular Happy Places one, and then there's the Sparkle Hill, which is a different edition. So I have another one. I have another one somewhere I'll have to find. It's very dusty. Again, has been in storage, so I can see there's definitely a bunch of dust right here for me to clean off. I'm just gonna wipe the whole entire box down because this needs to get binned up. I need to put it in a bin so it doesn't just stay out in the element to get dust and stuff on it. So let's get that wiped down. Very cute. You can see all the little kitchen accessories that it came with. We'll set here on the back. All right, now let's actually open it up because I haven't seen it in a long time. Well, let's just make sure it's in okay condition. So inside, that's all it is in here. I don't have any furniture or anything. I just have the Sparkle Hill Happy Home. It does look really dusty. There is some dust on it. Let's get it to sparkle. Sparkle the way it's meant to sparkle and shine. Cleaned up. It's really cute up here. The little lights. They're supposed to be in the bathroom. Stairs. Turn it around. I love that they actually decorated the outside of it. They could have left this blank. They could have, but nope. Moose Toys added the details in, and then you can see why it's called Sparkle Home. Can you see the glitter? That they actually added some sparkle and glitter to some of the accents here. All the pink has sparkle, and then of course this piece here is a translucent sparkle. Oh, I love that. How the tile looks.
Berdiri kan, coba lihat, berdiri ya.
Holographic effect, while the original one doesn't have that. Ooh, even a little rug on the
Udah
ground.
banyak saya.
Ya, tunggu aja, seperempat jam lagi.
Okay, so this one looks good. I could display this, but because I have the box, I'm still just gonna put it.
Kayak udah gitu loh Pak dia.
Hah?
Kayak udah siap gitu.
I would love to find
Loh Pak.
Siapa belum?
And the other set that I have is this one right here. This is the school. So this one is known as the Happyville High School. So I love this set. This had so much value back in the day. So much. I'm gonna write this box down too. That's an interesting window. How it you can see everything. This whole piece is a here. Here, you can actually see the little display high school in there. You can see the high school in there, and then it goes all the way around. I like that. That's nice that they did today, I can't really tell what it is. There's just so much packaging surrounding it. So I like it whenever they have the little windows. Okay. So now, open up this high school. You see cookies were on sale.
Udah berapa jam? 2 jam.
Everybody, welcome back.